solution of global warming-free essay example. A worldwide discussion that started with concern over warming has now turned to the more extensive term climate change, favored by scientists to portray the complex shifts currently impacting our planet's weather and climate systems. Climate change includes rising normal temperatures as well as extreme climate events, changing natural wildlife populations and habitats, rising oceans, and a range of different effects. These changes are emerging as people keep on adding heat-trapping greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. As the world warms, intense weather events are becoming more common, ocean levels are rising, extended droughts are putting pressure on food crops, and numerous animal and plant species are forced to annihilation. Tackling climate change will need numerous solutions, there's no magic bullet. However, almost all of these solutions exist today, and a considerable lot of them rely on people changing the manner in which we carry on, shifting the manner in which we make and consume energy. This essay will discuss the best possible solutions to fight global warming. This will be seen, firstly, by discussing on the improvements to energy efficiency and vehicle fuel economy, secondly, increases in renewable resources, thirdly, setting a price on carbon, fourth, finally protecting forests, and finally, use of nuclear power plants are all effective ways of reducing the amount of carbon dioxide and other gases trapping heat on the planet. Improvements in energy efficiency are commonly accomplished by using most efficient technologies or production process, or by use of normally approved strategies to decrease energy losses. Homes and business building waste 40% of the energy used in the United States. Of the $2,000 the normal American spends paying for energy every year, $200 to $400 could be going to waste from drafts, air leaks around openings, and obsolete warming and cooling systems. The following are some of the most usually suggested measures from a home energy assessment that can enable you to conserve energy and set aside some cash, bringing about a superior, progressively productive, and more convenient building. Seal air leaks around floors, dividers, roofs, windows, entryways, and chimneys with caulk, spray froth, and weather stripping. Add insulation to the storage room, crawl space or storm cellar, and exterior walls related to air sealing to help keep your home cool in the late spring and warm in the winter. Install more energy-proficient windows, entryways, and sky-facing windows by searching for Energy Star products, and set up storm windows and entryways to conserve energy and improve the solace of your home or building. Install an energy-efficient water heating appliance, for example, an energy-effective tank water heater or an on-demand tankless water heater. Water heating is the third biggest energy cost in your home, commonly representing about 12% of your utility bill. Upgrade household appliances and electronic devices to Energy Star or Energy Star most efficient qualified items. Appliances represent about 15% of your family's energy use, with refrigerators, washing machines, and dryers are at the top of the utilization list. By decreasing these losses through energy efficiency upgrades, you can save extra cash and be progressively comfortable in your home or business. Improvements to vehicle fuel economy. Fuel-efficient vehicles need less gas to go a given distance. When we consume less gas, we utilize less oil. When we utilize less oil, we cut global warming emissions and produce less pollution. What's more, since we're utilizing less fuel, we're spending less on gas, significantly less. FE has proven that by utilizing existing cost-effective technologies it is likely to decrease average vehicle fuel consumption by half by 2050. Such enhancements involve increased engine performance, weight decrease, improved aerodynamics, and reduced tire erosion among others. Improving efficiency in vehicles helps contain anticipated increases in carbon dioxide emissions close by other policy measures, for example, deploying alternatively fueled vehicles, the utilization of low-carbon fuels, moving to increasingly efficient transport modes, and to avoid motorized transport. It would moreover result in yearly financial savings because of decreased oil usage worth $400 billion in 2050. As of this very moment on until 2050, up to $8 trillion could be spared because of less oil utilization. Extra advantages of decreased oil usage additionally incorporate decreased reliance on fossil fuel, lower emissions of short-lived climate pollutants, for example, black carbon, and improved air quality. 74% of transport CO2 pollution from road vehicles in 2014, the sum of worldwide CO2 emissions were 38 gt. From the 8.8 gt of the entire 74% were from road transport. 300 less power station. The 33 gt of CO2 that could be conserved in the period of 2015 and 2050 is generally what might be compared to shutting down 300 coal power stations over a similar time span. Reserve funds of $2 trillion. A sum of $2 trillion could be made in fuel investment funds by 2025. $500 billion of which would support the expenses of starting a change to electric vehicles. Increases in renewable energy resources. Renewable energy reduces carbon emissions and has a much lower effect on our environment. By supplying electricity to a great many homes and businesses, renewable energy is lowering the danger of environmental change and making the air safe breathable. Producing energy that delivers no greenhouse gas emissions from petroleum derivatives and decreases some types of air pollution. Diversifying energy supply and lessening reliance on imported fuel. Creating economic development and employments in manufacturing, installation, and much more. The correlation turns out to be clear when you review the numbers. Burning natural gas for power generation releases somewhere in the range of 0.6 and 2 pounds of carbon dioxide equivalent per kilowatt-hour. Coal emits somewhere in the range of 1.4 and 3 pounds and 60 pence of CO2 kilowatts per hour. Wind, then again, is accountable for just 0.02 to 4 pence of CO2 kilowatts per hour on an actual life cycle basis. Solar-based 0.07 to 0.2, geothermal 0.1 to 0.2, and hydroelectric somewhere in the range of 0.1 and 0.5. Renewable electricity generation from biomass can have a large number of global warming emissions in terms of the resource and whether it is reasonably sourced sustainably and harvested. Air and water pollution emitted by coal and natural gas plants is connected with breathing issues, neurological harm, heart attacks, cancer, premature death, and a variety of other different severe problems. The vast majority of these negative health impacts originate from air and water pollution that clean energy technologies essentially don't create. Wind, solar, and hydroelectric systems produce power with no related air pollution emissions. Geothermal and biomass systems emit some air toxins. However, total air emissions are commonly much lower than those of coal and natural gas-fired power plants. Renewable energy as of now supports a huge number of occupations in the United States. In 2016, the wind energy industry instantly employed more than 100,000 full-time equal employees in variation of capacities, including manufacturing, project development, construction and turbine installation, operations and maintenance, transportation and logistics, and financial, legal, and consulting services. In excess of 500 processing plants in the United States manufacture parts for wind turbines, and wind power project installations in 2016 alone represented $13 billion in investments. Even though renewable facilities demand upfront investments for construction, they would then be able to work at a very low cost. Therefore, renewable energy costs can be entirely steady after some time. Additionally, the prices of renewable energy technologies have declined consistently, and are anticipated to drop significantly more. For instance, the normal cost to install solar dropped in excess of 70% somewhere in the range of 2010 and 2017. The expense of generating electricity from wind fell by 66% somewhere in the range of 2009 and 2016. Costs will probably decrease significantly further as business sectors develop and organizations progressively exploit economies of scale. Utilizing more renewable energy can bring down the costs of and the need for natural gas and coal by expanding competition and diversifying our energy supplies. What's more, an increasing dependence on renewable energy can help secure buyers when non-renewable energy source costs spike. Wind and solar are less inclined to mass-scale failure since they are distributed and modular. Distributed systems are spread out over a vast land region, so an extreme weather event in one area won't cut off capacity to a whole locale. Modular systems are made out of various individual wind turbines or solar arrays. Regardless of whether a portion of the equipment in the system is broken, the rest can normally keep on working. For instance, Hurricane Sandy affected fossil fuel-dominated electric generation and delivery networks in New York and New Jersey and left a large number of individuals without power. Interestingly, renewable energy projects in the Northeast endured Hurricane Sandy with minimum loss or interruption. The danger of destructive events will likewise rise in the future as droughts, heat waves, more extreme storms, and progressively severe wildfires become increasingly common because of global warming, expanding the demand for strong, clean technologies. Setting a price on carbon. A price on carbon helps move the weight for the damage back to the individuals who are in charge of it, and who can lessen it. Rather than mandating who ought to decrease emissions where and how, a carbon price gives an economic signal and polluters choose for themselves whether to stop their dirtying action, decrease emissions, or keep on polluting and pay for it. In this manner, the general environmental objective is accomplished in the most adaptable and least cost way to society. The carbon price likewise animates clean innovation and market development, fueling new low-carbon drivers of economic growth. Carbon pricing is a method for utilizing the power of market forces to handle the danger of environmental change head-on. It utilizes market mechanisms to put a cost on greenhouse gas emissions, and make big polluters pay for the hazardous emissions they make. The principle is quite straightforward: the more you emit, the more you pay. On the other side, carbon pricing additionally implies that when polluters pollute less, they save money, making a genuine financial incentive to clean up their act. Which makes utilizing renewables, which don't have an additional expense, even more appealing, expediting the move to a clean energy economy. The latest report from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development revealed that the normal carbon price throughout 42 major economies was around $8 per ton in 2018, far beneath the level most specialists state is important to address environmental change. Those low costs, a few scientists have contended, may ponder political limitations on pricing carbon directly. For correlation, the United Nations report evaluated that legislatures would need to force viable carbon costs of $135 to $5.5 per ton of carbon dioxide contamination by 2030 to keep by and large a worldwide temperature alteration beneath 1.5 degrees Celsius, or 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit. Protecting forests. Potential technologies could help with this later on, yet it will take years, innovation, and measurement before we comprehend what else really works just as trees and nature itself at cleaning up the air. Tropical forest trees, similar to every single green plant, take in carbon dioxide and discharge oxygen amid photosynthesis. Plants likewise complete the contrary procedure, known as respiration, in which they release carbon dioxide, yet in general they take in smaller amounts than they take in throughout photosynthesis. The excess carbon is saved in the plant, supporting it to grow. Once trees are chopped down and burned or permitted to decompose, their saved carbon is emitted into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. Also, this is the way deforestation and forest degradation add to global warming. As indicated by the best current estimate, Deforestation is accountable for around 10% of all global warming emissions. Decreasing deforestation has different advantages past diminishing global warming pollution. Tropical forests are home to numerous unique species of animals and plants. Animals, for example, the jaguar risk extinction in the event that we don't act to safeguard their tropical forest natural habitat. What's more, tropical habitats are critical sources of food, medicine, and clean drinking water for individuals and creating nations. Tropical forests help manage regional rainfall and stops both floods and droughts. Decreasing deforestation isn't just an advantageous action against a global warming, it likewise can make significant commitments to preserving biodiversity and helping sustainable development. Yet, planting trees, restoring seagrasses, and boosting the utilization of agricultural cover crops could help clean up substantial amounts of carbon dioxide. Reviving forests already cut down in Brazil, for instance, could take in about 1.5 billion metric tons of CO2 out of the air, and the latest report released by the National Academies of Science evaluates the world's forests and ranches could store 2.5 gigatons. Those are generally unassuming numbers given historic carbon emissions of 2.2 trillion metric tons, yet every commitment is expected to reduce the world's present direction. Trees consume carbon and different gases from the air. An individual mature tree can take in 48 pounds of carbon a year, and produces enough clean oxygen for 4 individuals to inhale fresh air. A past exceptional report by IPCC expressed that tree planting could remove around 1.6 gt of CO2 every year. A few people contend that atomic power, in spite of worries over safety, water use, and poisonous waste, ought to likewise belong to the solution, on the grounds that nuclear plants doesn't support any immediate air pollution while operating. Nuclear power makes a critical commitment to decreasing greenhouse gas emissions worldwide while simultaneously satisfying the increasing energy needs of a developing world and assisting global sustainable development. Nuclear power plants generate for almost no greenhouse gas emissions or air pollutants amid their operation and without a doubt, low emission levels throughout their entire life cycle. Consequently, the utilization of nuclear power averts the emission of almost 2 billion tons of carbon dioxide per year, the likeness taking more than 400 million automotives off the road every year. Nuclear energy is used to produce electrical power. Along these lines, it is likely to decrease the emission of CO2 if nuclear power plants are utilized rather than other CO2-emitting technologies. This is specifically the situation for electrical generation plants fueled by coal, oil or gas. The CO2 emissions can without a doubt be decreased if electrical power plants driven by petroleum products are being substituted by nuclear power plants. Nevertheless, the utilization of nuclear power tragically is exceedingly tricky. However, the issue of CO2 emissions must not be viewed as independently of every single other risks and problems. Nuclear power creates very few life cycle carbon emissions. It likewise faces considerable economic difficulties, and conveys significant human health and environmental dangers. UX unequivocally supports policies and measures to fortify the safety and security of nuclear power. Over the period 1970-2015, nuclear power avoided around 68 gt CO2 in total, close to the entire actual emissions from the power sector in 2010-2015. So as to secure the environment, we ought to dependably do our best to educate individuals about global warming and its causes and its eventual outcomes. We can make the progress to a clean energy economy today, while securing our climate and sparing purchasers cash. These answers will help protect the planet for future generations.